Hi, I'm Gift Udoh, the CEO and founder of Norina Farms, and I am a 219 Mandela Washington Fellow at the University of Iowa. I'm working on this training video with Dr. Diane Rohlman from the University of Iowa College of Public Health and the Great Plains Center for Agricultural Safety and Health. Would like to thank the United States Department of State, IREX, the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders, VAT Tractum, the Great Plains Center for Agricultural Health at the University of Iowa, and Norina Farms for their immense contribution to the success of this project. So this is a pesticide safety training. We know that pesticides activities occurs all over the world, even in Nigeria. So farmers use pesticides for agricultural activities. So this is a training to help farmers stay safe, know what to do, know how to apply pesticides, know how to stay safe, know the kinds of hygienes that they should use for pesticides activities, know the kind of PPEs that they should use. So this is an all-in-one training for agricultural workers to be able to use pesticides safely. So let's move on to the activity of today. So what are pesticides? Pesticides are substances that are used to destroy pests. They are used in homes, they are used in agricultural activities, they are used in communities. So they can be used to kill weeds, they can be used to kill insects, they can be used to reduce transmission of mosquito-borne diseases. They can also be used to increase crop production. So there are benefits and risks to the use of pesticides. The benefits include the fact that it can increase crop yield. It can be used to reduce mosquitoes that carry malaria. It can improve the quality of food, and it can reduce labor-intensive agriculture. So, but we have some health risks that are associated with the use of pesticides. So certain groups of people are at higher risk of adverse outcomes from exposures to pesticides. And then we also have environmental concerns like contamination of the water, contamination of the soil. And I'll show you some of the pesticides that are available in Nigeria. So for someone that is not in agriculture, these are some of the pesticides that are used in Nigeria. Pesticides are used all over the world, but this is what is familiar in Nigeria. We have slasher, paraquat, sniper, larafos. So these are different pesticides, herbicides, and then insecticides that are used here in Nigeria. So who is at risk for the use of pesticides? Who is at risk? Some people are more at risk than the others. So you see, farmers, pesticide applicators that mix pesticides, that apply the pesticides, and also clean up equipment after pesticides have been applied are at risk of getting exposed to pesticides. And then pregnant women are also at risk of getting exposed to pesticides. Then young children that work on the field with their parents are at risk. They are more at risk of getting exposed to pesticides. So they have smaller body compared to that of the adult. They have organs that are still developing. So they are more at risk when a tiny quantity of pesticides may enter into an adult, and that same quantity entering into a child. The child is much more at risk for that quantity compared to the adult. And then young adolescents that work with their parents on the farm, sometimes they help them to apply pesticides. They are at risk of getting exposed to pesticides because their body is also still developing. So how are people exposed to pesticides? How do you think people get exposed to pesticides? So when you live near a farm, you have your home very close to your farm, you may get exposed to pesticides. So think about these things. Do you close the window when pesticides are applied? Do children play outside when pesticides are applied? Do you smell the pesticides very close to your home when it is applied? Do you also smell the pesticides when you enter into your home? These are some of the ways that you are getting exposed to pesticides when you live near your field, when your home is close to your farm. So you think about how close is your farm from your field. These are some of the things that you should be thinking about to know if you're getting exposed to pesticides or not. And then another way is applying the pesticides at home. Some people, some of us may use pesticides in the home to control mosquitoes that carry malaria. So you may be getting exposed to pesticides when you use pesticides at home as insecticides. So some of the things that you can do is to reduce the use of pesticides is using nets on your windows, and then you can also clean out the gutters around the house. You can take out wastes and food trash. These are some of the things that can help you to reduce the use of pesticides at home. And when you use pesticides at home, do you stay inside the house after using these pesticides? So using pesticides at home can actually expose you and children inside the home to pesticides. Another way you can get exposed is working on a farm. So you're not the pesticide applicator, but you're working on a farm where pesticides have been applied. So have you ever been exposed to pesticides when you were working on a farm? So maybe you finished if a field has been applied with pesticides and then you had to go into that field to harvest, or a field has been applied with pesticides and then you had to go into that field to retrieve something. These are some of the ways that you can actually get exposed to pesticides. Another way you can get exposed to pesticides is as an applicator. As an applicator, you can get exposed to pesticides when you are applying. You think about, what do you wear when you are applying pesticides? What do you wear when you are applying pesticides? Are you properly covered? Are you using the right personal protective equipment? And when you apply, do you walk into the pesticides? Do you apply against the wind? So these are some of the things that you should be working on when you apply pesticides. So applying the pesticides, mixing the pesticides, and cleaning up the equipment where after applying pesticides can expose you to pesticides. And whatever you are wearing when you are applying the pesticides can actually expose you to pesticides. Another way is you can see that mixing of the pesticide from the images here. You can see that using your hands to mix the pesticides, applying pesticides barefooted can actually expose you to pesticides. Working in fields recently sprayed with pesticides. So how long do you wait before entering into the farm after pesticides have been sprayed? How long do you wait? Do you go into the field immediately after applying? Do you wait until it is time? Like, do you wait for a particular amount of time before entering back into the field? What if after applying, you just remember that you forgot something on the field? Do you run back into the field immediately to retrieve what you forgot? So if you have done any of this, you have exposed yourself to pesticides. So these are like some of the ways that you can get exposed to pesticide. Another way is not washing after applying pesticide. So after applying pesticide, when you don't wash, when you don't have a bath, when you don't wash your clothes, you are actually exposing yourself to pesticides. You see that when you finish spraying, your clothes may get wet from pesticides. Maybe your knapsack is leaking and then it spills on your body. That is actually getting you exposed to pesticides. And then when you finish applying, you don't wash your hands. You don't have your bath after applying the pesticides. That is exposing you to pesticides. So one of the things you can do is make sure you wash up after applying, and then make sure you have your water source close to the farm when you're applying pesticides. And when you are after applying pesticides, make sure that you are washing your clothes immediately. You are putting them outside to air dry, and you're not washing the clothes you use for pesticides together with other clothes. So let's say you're taking these clothes home to get washed. You are not taking that clothes, you're not mixing it with other clothes. You have your farm outfit differently and you have your other outfit differently. Please wash them separately. This is a way to keep you from getting exposed to pesticides. So make sure you wash up after applying pesticides. So another way is eating or drinking water contaminated with pesticide. Do not eat or drink when you are applying pesticides on the field. So do you eat or drink while working on the field? This is a question to ask. Do you eat? Let's say when you're going to the farm, you take food to the farm, and then after applying pesticides, you just eat on the field where you have just applied pesticides. So this is a way that you can get exposed to pesticides, or you can keep your water bottle on the field when you are applying pesticides. You can get exposed if your water or food gets contaminated with pesticides. So there are different types of pesticides. In Nigeria, there are some different types of pesticides. We have insecticides and we have herbicides. So insecticides are used to kill insects and herbicides are used to kill weeds. So what pesticides do you use? Do you use both? Do you use both the insecticides and the herbicides, or you just use only insecticides or you just use only herbicides? So different pesticides and have their different active ingredients in them. So you can see we have DD-Force, we have Terminator, we have Larafos for the insecticides, and for herbicides, we have Slasher, Gold Star, Parag. So they have their different active ingredients. So which one do you use from all of this? Which pesticides do you use? So you have the pesticide label. It actually tells you what to do. The pesticide label tells you how to be safe. So these active ingredients that I just mentioned from the previous slide, you see cypermethrin, you see paraquat, you see glyphosate, they actually are active ingredients of the pesticide, and they are written on the pesticide label. So this is how the pesticide label tells you to be safe. So the pesticide label tells you how to safely use the product. So on the label, you will see how to use the product. It tells you how to apply the pesticides and tells you when it is safe for you to go back to the field. So on the pesticide label, you'll be able to see when to go back into the field, how many days interval you have to wait before re-entering your field, how many days you have to wait before going to harvest your crops after applying pesticide. And then the label tells you how much pesticide to use for a particular area of land. And then the pesticide label also tells you the kind of safety equipment you need to use, whether you need to use pesticide resistant, chemical resistant glove, you need to use eye goggle, you need to know the kind of respirator to use for a particular kind of pesticide. And then it tells you how toxic a particular pesticide is. So I'd like to say that remember to select pesticides that are less toxic and follow the direction on the label. So when you go to purchase pesticides, select pesticides that are less toxic. There are pesticides that are less toxic, but they can still do the work. They are still very active and will do the work you want it to do. So always go for pesticides that are less toxic and follow the directions on the label when you purchase your pesticides. Now we'll talk about the pesticide label. The pesticide label, what is written, how it is a legal document, how it can help you to stay safe, what you can find on the label. So this is an example of a pesticide label, the front panel of the pesticide label. It tells you the restriction of the pesticide, whether it is formulated for agricultural activities only, because some people may use the same pesticide for their field and also try to use it in their homes. So some pesticides are designed for agricultural activities only. So the label tells you the product name. It can tell you the product name. It can tell you the active ingredient inside the pesticide. You can see the NAFDAC registration number of the pesticides. It tells you about the child hazard, that you should keep it away from the reach of children. And then you can see the signal, poison, how toxic it is. All of this information is contained on the pesticide label. And you can also get the first aid statement of the pesticide from the label. So if swallowed, what you need to do, if inhaled, if it gets on your skin, if it gets into your eye, what you need to do. And there are all other you can check out other panels to see precautionary statements of that particular pesticide. So the pesticide label is a key to help you use the product safely and effectively. So these are some of the symbols that you can find on your pesticide label. You can see whether it is extremely toxic, whether it is highly toxic, whether it is moderately toxic or slightly toxic. So from the pesticide label, you get to see all of these symbols, and these symbols help you to know the level of toxicity of a particular pesticide, whether it is extremely toxic or slightly toxic. So like I said before, remember to go for pesticides that are less toxic. Remember to go for pesticides that are less toxic. They will be active and still do what you want them to do. And for this is a pesticide label activity. This is a pesticide label activity. So let's see. What does the pesticide label tell you? What does this pesticide label tell you? So the pesticide label helps you to tell you how to be safe, just like I said before. So you can see on this label that there is so much information contained on the label. So you can see the first aid statement, you can see how you can store your pesticide. The pesticide label actually tells you the kind of personal protective equipment that you can use. It tells you that you do not drink, eat, or smoke during application. Wash the used equipment and bath after application. So you see how much information is contained on the label. The label tells you how to expose, how to dispose of the empty containers after use. It can also tell you the level of toxicity of the pesticide. It can tell you if it is formulated for both agriculture or home use. So this particular pesticide is formulated for agricultural use only, and then you should keep it out of the reach of children. You can see the kind of PPE that you need to use. It is dangerous for aquatic life. And the pesticide label will be able to give you directions for use, how to use the pesticide. So how much to use for a particular area of land, the re-entry period. So you see for this particular pesticide label, the re-entry period is 48 hours, and then the pre-harvest interval is 1 to 5 days. So you can see the toxicity class. So the pesticide label has a lot of information for you to help you to stay safe when you're using pesticides. Now, how do pesticides get in your body? How do pesticides get in your body? I think the slide was running ahead of itself. So this is how do you think pesticides get in your body? There are different ways that pesticides get into your body, and we're going to be talking about some of them. It can get into your body when you inhale the pesticide. So when you are mixing the pesticides and you are moving really close to it, you can inhale, and this is how this pesticide gets into your body. It can also get into your body when you ingest the pesticide. So swallowing, eating, or drinking. Like I talked about eating on the field when you are applying the pesticides. So when you ingest the pesticide, it gets into your body. And then another way is absorption through your skin. So it can get into your body when you have a cut and pesticide drops on that cut. It can actually enter into your body, and then it can get into your body even without a cut. When the pesticide gets on your skin, it can actually get absorbed into your body. So these are the 3 ways that pesticides can get into your body. I think the one of the ways that it can get into your body, we'll talk about the skin, how it gets into your body through the skin. So it can get in from your arms, it can get it from your hands, it can get in from your feet. So when you are applying pesticides barefooted, you are exposing yourself to pesticides. When you're mixing pesticides with your bare hands, you are exposing yourself to pesticides. And your arms also, when you're applying pesticides and your backpack has a leakage, it is peeling from your backpack, it can also expose you to pesticides. So it gets on your clothes, it gets on your skin. This is how pesticides get on your skin. So pesticides are absorbed differently. So different parts of your body absorbs the pesticides differently. You can see the scrotum has the higher absorption rate. So when the pesticides get on your scrotum, the absorption rate is quite higher compared to when it is on your palm. Let's say you are working on the field with pesticides and then you had a need to use the restroom and then you touch your scrotum, you see that something that is not very active on your palm, you'll begin to see the reaction when it touches your scrotum. And then another area that has high absorption rate is your armpit. When you're using pesticides, when you're applying pesticides and then you mistakenly touch your armpit. We have heard about people that mistakenly touch their armpit and then they get that reaction that wasn't even occurring on their palm. So you can see that for the palm, it is low compared to the scrotum, the armpit, the scalp, that's your hair, your ear canal. So when you're applying the pesticide, you have to keep your hands away from the ear because the absorption rates for these areas are quite different compared to your palm, the ball of your foot, the top of your hand, your forearm, your abdomen. So it's different for different parts of the body. So this is what you should know for the absorption rate of pesticides. So have you ever felt ill after applying pesticides before? Have you ever applied pesticides and you started to feel like a certain kind of way? You started to feel nauseous, you started to feel dizzy, you started to feel headache. Have you ever felt ill after applying pesticides? Have you ever felt ill? So there are different health effects associated with pesticides. There are different health effects associated with pesticides. In general, pesticides with high toxicity will cause symptoms even when they are exposed in small amounts. So for a pesticide like that has paraquat as an active ingredient, when you are exposed to a small amount, it will cause the symptom. But for pesticides with low toxicity like glyphosate, you may not experience any symptom until you are exposed to a large amount. So some health effects can actually be delayed. So there are long-term health effects and then there are short-term health effects. There are some of the effects that you'll be able to notice immediately. So the symptoms are happening immediately, you get exposed, and some of them take some time before you can get that exposure. So you see that the toxicity plus of the pesticide plus exposure is what leads to a hazard. So when the level of toxicity of a pesticide is high, and then you get exposed, that's when it leads to a hazard. So remember what I said before, make sure you go for pesticides that have low toxicity. Make sure you go for pesticides that have low toxicity so that you are not exposing yourself to pesticides. So like I said before, whether you have felt ill after using pesticides or when you're using pesticides, these are some of the symptoms that of pesticide exposure. So you can, when you get exposed to pesticides, you can feel dizzy, you can get nauseous and feel like you want to vomit. You have abdominal pain, diarrhea, you start to sweat, coughing, fatigue and body pain. There is loss of appetite, chest pain, breathlessness, salivation, runny nose, skin rash. So skin rash, abdominal pain, diarrhea are some of the most common symptoms that you may experience when you have been exposed to pesticides. So it can get to loss of consciousness, seizures. So these are the symptoms that you experience. If you have ever experienced any of these symptoms and you work with pesticides, please go and see a doctor. If you have experienced any of these symptoms after applying pesticide, go to the doctor, see your doctor, tell them how you feel so that they can help you with what you need to do to actually keep yourself safe from pesticides. So how do you prevent exposure? We have talked about how people get exposed. We have talked about the level of toxicity. We have talked about the pesticide label. We have talked about the pesticide label, how the pesticide label tells you how to be safe. Now we want to talk about preventing exposure. How do you prevent yourself from getting exposed? Please, I would like to say that you should not mix pesticides with your bare hands. Don't mix pesticides with your bare hands. Wear safety equipment. We have pesticide chemical resistant glove. We have eye goggles. We have respirators, nose masks. So we have coveralls. Make sure that you're wearing safety equipment when you're applying pesticides, when you're preparing pesticides. Wear your safety equipment. Do not mix pesticides with your bare hands. You can use a stick to mix your pesticide, and then do not fill the sprayer to the top, where you fill it to the top and it begins to spill, and carry the sprayer to avoid spilling. So do not fill it to the top, and then carry the sprayer in a way that you avoid spilling on your skin. So this is how you can prevent exposure when you're preparing and mixing the pesticide. Some of the safety equipment that I mentioned, you can see the you can wear a hat. Make sure you're wearing a hat, wear your eye goggle, you're wearing coverall, you're wearing chemical resistant gloves, not just any glove. It has to be chemical resistant gloves, and then your safety boots. And then for your masks, make sure you're wearing masks that are recommended for that particular pesticide. That's why you need to look at your label to see the kind of masks that you need to use for that pesticides. Let's move on. So preventing exposure while you're mixing. So keep pesticides off your skin. Wear long sleeves and pants. Wear gloves. Wear a mask and eye goggles to help you. So if you don't have the coverall, make sure you're wearing long sleeve and trousers. So they help you to keep pesticides from your skin. Like I said before, do not mix with your hand. Use a stick to mix pesticides, and avoid splashing and spilling the pesticide when spraying when filling the sprayer. So put water and the pesticide into the container carefully to avoid spilling, and then wash and change your clothes if the pesticides spill on them. So you're not just going to wash because they spill on them. Make sure you wash your clothes after applying pesticides. Make sure you wash your clothes every time you apply pesticides. Immediately after applying pesticide, wash and change your clothes after applying, and do not wash pesticide bottle or pesticide sprayer in the river. So don't wash the sprayer in the river, because you're also exposing other people to pesticide. You're also exposing the environment to pesticide. You're also contaminating water, and you're also exposing aquatic life to pesticide. So do not wash the pesticide container in the river. Another thing I'd like to add is that you should prevent you should if you notice that there's a leak in the backpack, please stop spraying. So stop spraying immediately you notice that there's a leak in the backpack. And then if the nozzle get clogged, don't use your hands to try to clean it. Don't use your hands. You can use a wire to clean it. Don't use your hands to try to clean it. Then spray the pesticides in the direction away from the wind. So you're not spraying it and bringing it back to you. You're spraying it in the direction away from the wind. So it is actually getting on the field. It is actually doing what you want it to do, and not coming to you and exposing you to pesticide. And then spray close to the plants to prevent drift. So when you're spraying, make sure you're spraying close to the plants, so the pesticide does not drift away to another field or drift away to your home, for people that have their homes very close to the farm. So make sure you're spraying very close to the plants, and then do not eat on the field. So you have your meals, you take it to the farm, and you want to apply pesticides. Make sure that you are not eating on the field after applying pesticides. Don't eat on the field. So pesticides can drift. They can actually get on your food, and you get poisoned from applying pesticides. You did not ingest it yourself. This time around, it just came to settle on your food, and you eat that food, and you have been exposed to pesticides. And then wash your hands properly before you eat. Do not stop or talk while spraying. So just continue to spray, finish your application, and come out of the field. Do not stop or talk while applying. So this is a way to prevent exposure while you're applying pesticides. So preventing exposure after application. You can get exposed to pesticides while you are cleaning the equipment. Yes, you can. So for someone, you're done with application and then another person is cleaning the equipment, the person needs to know that they can get exposed to pesticides while they are cleaning the equipment. So if you spill pesticides on your skin, wash it right away. Don't wait and say, I'll wash it immediately I finish spraying. You have to wash it right away. Wash it immediately it touches your skin. And if the pesticide gets on your clothes, take off the clothes and wash them. Do not wear them again until after they are washed. So don't take off the clothes and keep it aside and use it again when you want to spray pesticides. Wash the clothes before you reuse it again for another application. And shower, make sure you take a shower or have a bath after you have finished your work. Do not reuse empty pesticides containers. Do not reuse empty pesticide containers. This is very important because when some people may finish applying pesticides and then wash the bottle. So they say, I washed the bottle very clean. I washed it. I made sure I washed it very well. And then I used it to drink water. I made sure I washed it very well. And then I used it to store food. So do not reuse empty pesticide container. Make sure you properly dispose them when you use them. Don't leave them on the field. You can bury them, you can burn them, you can slash them. Don't leave them on the field, because when you leave them on the field, you may be exposing somebody that does not even know that is a pesticide container, that container is actually poisonous. So don't leave them on the field. Make sure you dispose them properly. Another way to dispose it is that you can actually have a collector where for a community, you can have someone that you go to deposit the pesticides bottle with, and then the organizations, the companies that produce these pesticides can go and pick up from that particular location. So these are some of the ways that you can prevent yourself from getting exposed after application. So preventing exposure at home. So family members, including children, can get exposed to pesticide if the home is close to the field. So when these pesticides are applied on the fields that are close to home, please close the windows, keep the windows closed, and keep the children inside when the pesticides are applied. So they shouldn't go outside to play when the pesticides are applied. The windows should not be open, because this pesticide can drift into your home when they are applied. So make sure you store work clothes separately from other clothing of family members, and the clothes of family members should be washed separately. So when you want to wash, make sure that you're washing them separately. So you can put them in a plastic bag until you want to wash them. So hang them separately from other clothes of family members, and wash the clothes as soon as possible. So pesticides are more easier to remove from your clothes when you wash them right away. So wash them immediately. You're done, as soon as possible, wash your clothes when you're done applying pesticides. And when you're going to the house, make sure that you're taking off the shoes that you use in applying pesticides. You'll be bringing pesticides into the home when you wear the shoes that you used on the field into the home. So you see that even for children that were not on the field, you have brought the pesticides into the home and you have exposed your family to pesticides. So wear gloves to handle work clothes. So when you wear your gloves, when you want to remove your work clothes, make sure you still have your hand gloves on. You're still wearing your hand gloves. You take off your work clothes and then you can remove your hand glove. You can now remove your hand glove after removing your work clothes. And after removing your hand glove, please wash your hand with soap and running water. Don't say, because I used hand gloves to apply pesticides, I remove the hand gloves, I don't have to wash my hands. You still have to wash your hands with soap and running water. And when you wash your clothes after applying pesticides, make sure you hang them outside to air dry. Hang the clothes outside to air dry, and pre-soak your clothes, your work clothes, after applying. You can pre-soak them in a bucket and to reduce the contamination, and then wash them. You can now wash them after pre-soaking. You can pre-soak or pre-rinse the clothes before washing them. So these are some of the ways that you can help yourself and your family stay safe and prevent exposure from pesticides. So do you think there are other things that you can do to prevent exposure? Do you think there are some other things that you can actually do to prevent exposure from pesticides? Think about it. If there are some other things as you go about your agricultural activities, think about some of the other things that you can do to prevent exposure to pesticides. So do you think who do you think you can ask questions if you have any questions about pesticides, exposure, application, mixing of pesticides? Who do you think you can ask questions? Do you think these people are accessible? So you can ask agricultural development program officers. They are actually in different communities where you have agricultural activities. So you can reach out to them and ask them questions if you have questions. You can ask other farmers. Yes, you can ask other farmers. So there are farmers that are very experienced in the field and farmers that have actually asked these questions. So they have answers to your questions. You can ask your fellow farmers and they will be able to provide answers. And if you have questions about pesticides, exposure, you can also go to your doctor. You can ask a doctor and you can get so much information from the pesticide label. You can get plenty of information from the pesticide label. And you can also ask Gift Udoh from Norina Farms. Yes, you can ask me if you have any questions concerning pesticides, application, exposure. Yes, you can ask me. So is there anyone else you think you can ask about pesticides, pesticide safety? Is there anyone else you think you can ask? So you can actually ask extension officers. So you have extension officers located in different communities, agricultural communities. So you can reach out to them and ask them questions if you have any. So if you think about anybody else, you can ask a question. You can share with people in your community. Tell them that if they have questions concerning pesticides, they can actually ask these people. So let's move forward. Remember that you have to speak up if you have any concerns about your safety or your health. Don't hold it in. Make sure you speak out. Make sure you talk to someone if you need to ask any question. If you need any clarification, please go ahead and ask. And never be afraid to ask questions when you do not understand something. So if you go to a pesticide store to purchase pesticides, please stand and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Make sure you're asking, oh, what is the toxicity level of this particular pesticide? Do you have one that has lower toxicity level? I want to go for that one. So don't be afraid to ask questions when you're purchasing the pesticides. So you can also ask, oh, how long? If you cannot even read the label, you can ask, how long do I have to wait before going into the field after purchasing the pesticides? So you can ask at the agricultural store where you are purchasing the pesticides. And if you are scared to purchase pesticides that are not original, that are not authentic, please go to the extension offices that are accredited, so you are sure that what you're buying is actually what is inside the bottle. And pesticides that you should be using should be NAFDAC approved. They should be NAFDAC approved. So when you go to the right agro distributors, they will be able to give you pesticides that are original. And always think safety first. So when you are applying pesticides, think about safety. Is this PPE enough? Is this clothes protecting me? Is the clothes I'm wearing protecting me? Are these gloves chemical resistant gloves? Are they going to protect me enough? So think safety. Think safety. When you're purchasing pesticides, always think about purchasing the personal protective equipment that you need to use for pesticides. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Dr. Diane Rohlman. Her email address is on the screen. You can reach out to Gift Udoh renadic33@gmail.com. So thank you so much for participating in the training and listening. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.